How we doing, Jets fans? I'm Glenn Naughton with JetNation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web with no limitations. No CEOs telling you how many things you can read and how many things you can say about the Jets on a given day. Post to your heart's content. Millions of visits to our site every month, the most active independent Jets message board on the web. Pretty liberal, too. You can get away with saying just about anything. Politics, race, insanity like that, not allowed. Anything football related, you want to criticize the Jets, you want to say they stink, you want to say they're great, you want to say this player is terrible, you want to say that player is the best. There's no limitations. Great site, best and most active Jets message board you will find on the web. And one of the hot topics, of course, right now, not just on jetnation.com, but circling all around the internet, whether it's a comment from Eric Mangini, which Mangini didn't comment so much on whether or not he thinks Dalvin Cook will go to the Jets, and we'll cover that in a second. But Albert Breer, one of the more respected insiders in the league, saying that he thinks Dalvin Cook to the Jets could be a thing. So it really seems to be heating up. Listen, Robert Saleh told us from the get-go, we talk about this all the time, right? Sometimes coaches, there's the coach speak stuff, there's the stuff they make up and smoke screens and things like that. Salah doesn't tend to do that with the team showing interest in a player. Now, he's not going to come out and say how interested they are and how much they're going to offer. Obviously, nobody does that. But Salah did say when he was asked about Dalvin Cook, is he a possibility? And he said, it's something we'll explore. Whereas with DeAndre Hopkins, he shot that down right away. Said, no, we like our receivers. So you got Dalvin Cook rumors heating up. You got, as we said, Salah weeks ago said it could be a thing. And there's, people all over Twitter saying it's going to happen, but really no one knows what's going to happen. We just know the Jets were going to look into it. They have. We know that Albert Breer has said he thinks it's going to happen. I actually took a look earlier. What was it? Bookies.com. They currently have the Jets as the favorite to sign Dalvin Cook. Jets leading just barely ahead of the Miami Dolphins. Really a tie here. They have the Jets at 22%, Dolphins at 21%, Bears at 16, Cowboys 16, Cardinals 13, Bills 11, Broncos 7, in the field 13.8. But the Jets are the number one team right now. At least, no matter which source you're going with, they're sort of top two or three teams in consideration for Cook. Now, the thing about potentially adding Cook or the way things are unfolding, I can't help but wonder. And if you think back years ago, well, really, Anthony Barr was a situation where he just changed his mind and didn't want to leave Minnesota. But it does make me wonder if this is Dalvin Cook trying to drive up the price, right? If you want to sign with a team that likes you, the Miami Dolphins, and they're not giving you the money you ask for, what better way to entice them or encourage them to give you more money than to float the name of a division rival who you would have to then play against twice a year? So I look at this the way if this were a relationship, right? Imagine, if you will, for a second that you're a single guy or girl, and somebody asks you, is there anyone you're interested in? And your answer is the perfect person for me would be person A, right? But person A is really not calling. So maybe you try to make them jealous and you let it be known that you're now pursuing person B, because that's what Dalvin Cook essentially did. It's more and more nowadays we're seeing players comment publicly on where they would like to go. Doesn't happen a lot, but it used to be never. Players would just keep all answers generic, vanilla, nothing, not tipping their hand, not showing any favoritism. But Dalvin Cook said himself a few weeks ago when he was asked, in your mind, where is the perfect landing spot for you? And he said Miami. That tells you, right. That's his number one choice. The Miami Dolphins are Dalvin Cook's number one choice. No matter where he ends up, and if he ends up with the Jets, I'll be cheering for him just like everybody else. But Dalvin Cook went on record saying Miami is the perfect fit for him. That's the place he wants to be. So Miami reportedly has an offer on the table, but it's not what Dalvin Cook is looking for. He wants more money. And we're hearing the same thing with DeAndre Hopkins, that he's got some offers out there, but he wants more money. And that's what brings me to Eric Mangini, former New York Jets head coach Eric Mangini chimed in yesterday or the day before. There were some tweets out there. The 33rd team, I believe, he did an interview with, if I'm not mistaken. So Mangini says what a lot of us already know, which is that teams at this point in the offseason have largely spent the money they can spend. There are some teams with some cap space, the Jets being one of them. They're at 23, 24 million. But Mangini says that these are guys who probably they're going to have to compromise on what they're looking for money wise, because these guys get cut, released, they're out there on the market, and they want to try to find a way to get similar money to what they were getting before they were cut. And that's teams just don't have, well, most teams don't have that kind of money laying around. They spent in free agency, they've signed all their draft picks, and as we talk about all the time when we talk about cap space, they want to keep that 5-6 million available in cap room during the season in case something comes up and they acquire another player. So even teams that have 11 million, say right now, hypothetically, really probably only willing to spend 5 or 6, and that's not going to be enough to get either of these guys. So, as Eric Mangini says, the Jets are in a situation where, and listen, this is complicated by the Aaron Rodgers deal that has still not happened. I tweeted this out yesterday. Remember, I believe it was that got to be 2 months ago now. Whenever the Aaron Rodgers deal was imminent, it was days away, and we heard from Connor Hughes that the new deal was done and fans were going to love it, and details of the new Aaron Rodgers contract would be announced the day after the deal was made official. That hasn't happened. So, we did a show a month ago, maybe, saying what's going on here. Why hasn't the Rodgers deal happened, or the Rodgers contract restructure? Why hasn't it happened? And we're still waiting on word from the Aaron Rodgers deal. So you've got the Jets trying to work that. You've got, of course, the Quinnen Williams situation. So how much money do they really, truly have? They may have 23 million on paper, but if they've got some of that allocated to the way they're going to spread out the Aaron Rodgers money, or maybe they're just counting on carrying that money forward toward next year to offset some of the Rodgers money. We don't know exactly what they have in mind, but if the Jets want to pursue a DeAndre Hopkins or a Dalvin Cook, again, Hopkins, it seems like it's a no-go. You've heard me say it a million times. I wish they'd go after him. I think he would elevate that receiver core to another level, but that's neither here nor there. Jets have shown no interest. Dalvin Cook is the target. But as Mangini said, if you're the Jets, you've created a 1-year window. I mean, my thought all along has kind of said it's, be generous. Let's say you've created a 2-year window here. You should be going all in. You should be doing everything you can to win right now. You can't be looking at trying to save cap space, a couple of years from now. You've got to go out and get as many weapons as possible to make this thing happen. Because once Aaron Rodgers goes, whenever that may be, I would imagine it'll be, it looks like he'll give him a couple years. He might give him one and leave. He might give him 3. We don't know right now. He may intend to do one thing, take enough hits this season and say, you know what? I think I'm done. We have no idea. What we do know is Aaron Rodgers is the Jets quarterback this year. And there are some weapons out there in Cook and Hopkins who could elevate this offense. Now, listen, Cook, is he the player he was a few years ago? Certainly not. And the level of confidence the Jets have in this offensive line kind of gives you an idea, or really kind of lets you know whether or not they believe in the backs they have. Because if you listen to our show, you know that I've said a million times I love Izzy Abanikanda. I think that Bam Knight can be a really good player. People forget how good Michael Carter was as a rookie. Michael Carter was just under 1,000 yards rushing, combined rushing and receiving yards from scrimmage as a rookie before he had a significant drop off last year when the O-line was a disaster and all that. So the Jets are solid at running back. Even if Breece Hall isn't 100% right away, you would imagine if the O-line plays up to its potential, then this is my opinion, and I have no issue if they sign Cook, but I think this running back going by committee, this backfield with Aaron Rodgers and the receivers they have, I think they could win some football games until Breece Hall's at 100%, and then you're ready to go. Now, is Dalvin Cook a significant upgrade over these guys? Maybe, maybe not at this point. Like I said, we haven't seen Izzy Abanikanda as a pro. I know that you watch him at Pitt and you just see a home run hitter who, 20 touchdowns, 22 touchdowns last year. The guy could take it to the house if you give him a crease. And if we see a bounce back year from Laken Tomlinson and Mekhi Becton and AVT's healthy, there's going to be some creases. So they may have the backs already to get it done. They clearly don't feel like they do because, again, they've gone out and they've at least explored the possibility of Dalvin Cook. But I'm on board with Mangini here. Mangini says that this is a team that's opened a small window for themselves. Go out and add the talented players now while you can, and there's really no reason not to. I get that, again, there are the questions about what is to come with the Aaron Rodgers contract situation. Who knows? We've gone from the deal will be done right after the trade is completed to Joe Douglas doing an interview, I believe it was with Mike Florio not long after the deal was done, and coming out and saying, we're making progress, we're talking. This trade isn't new anymore. This trade went down a couple months ago, and the Jets knew for a couple months before the trade that it was going to happen. So the Jets are kind of at, the 4-month mark, 3-4 month mark of looking at their books and knowing what they have to do and not getting it done. There are some who've said that, the deal is done. Again, I'm talking about fans, kind of sort of just, spitballing ideas. The deal's done. He just hasn't signed it. They just haven't made it official. I don't know why you would do that. Get the deal done, get it signed, get him into camp. And, of course, as I said, you've got the Quinnen Williams situation to worry about, or I shouldn't say worry about. And that's another topic with Quinnen. I've seen that question a few times. People said, when is the deal going to get done? They have to get it done. They have to get it done. And here's the thing. They don't have to get it done, but you want to get it done. You want to take care of your best player. And right now, Quinnen Williams is the best young player on the roster. I love Sauce, love Garrett Wilson. I love, all these guys are great, but Quinnen is the best guy on the roster right now, as far as I'm concerned. And even if he's not, let's say he's 2, let's say he's 3, whatever it is, he is a young, ascending, elite player. Let's get these guys signed. Let's stop playing games. All these other teams have gotten it done. They've all gotten their guys signed. Now, the thing with Quinnen Williams is he looking for the high 20s? Is he looking for 28, 29, 30 million? Or is he looking for a lower money with fewer years and the Jets want more years? If it's a years thing, I would imagine it's the Jets wanting 5 and Quinnen wanting 4. Getting 3, I can't see Quinnen even being foolish enough to ask for that. No one's giving out 3-year deals to a guy as young as he is. It's going to have to be a 4-year deal minimum. Maybe it's 5. Whether it's money, whether it's years, doesn't matter. The two sides have to get it done. I think that gets done before camp. A lot of people have said that, and I wholly agree. I think the Jets are going to kind of, maybe they're going to burn the midnight oil as camp approaches. But either way, I think Williams gets done. Of course, the Rodgers deal has to get reworked. You can't not rework that deal. $107 million cap hit next season. They'll sign him to a new deal. They'll add some voidable seasons, and they'll spread that cap out to make it more palatable. You just have to hope he hangs around for a few years to avoid that accelerated hit if he were to walk away. Which, by the way, Jets Twitter, stop being so sensitive. Goodness. So once the Aaron Rodgers deal happened, listen, every Jets fan on the planet in their right mind was pumped, over the moon. I said a few times, the first time you say out loud, Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers, you can't help but smile when you say it, because it's the furthest that you never in a million years thought the day would come. So when Aaron Rodgers becomes your quarterback, it hits you. And I mean, it's going to hit you again when you see him in uniform in a meaningful game, taking live reps that matter in the regular season. It's going to be another wake up call when it is even more real than it was when you read it in print or when you heard it on the radio that Rodgers had been acquired. And I said, it's a surreal feeling. And Jets fans should be absolutely thrilled that this is happening. They should be excited to have Aaron Rodgers. It's new expectations. Expect all the records to get broken. All this stuff. I've said all these things. And the other day, I tweet out a thought, because we're all thinking like best case scenario. And then the other day, I think to myself, what's the worst case scenario? What's the worst thing that could happen here with the Aaron Rodgers situation? That would be he only plays 1 year, which, maybe he gets dinged up and says, I don't want to play anymore. Or maybe he just takes a beating, decides he doesn't want to play anymore after this season. That'd be bad. That'd be terrible. Even worse would be he plays enough snaps or enough games to cost you that first rounder. But then either gets hurt or you just get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. And it's a one and done, one season, nothing to show for it. And you don't have a first round pick next year to find his replacement. So I kind of tweet out that hypothetical. What do the Jets do from here, Jets fans? What happens if Rodgers only plays a year and he either gets hurt, retires, 1 season, no first round pick? What's the move? And listen, I did this kind of being a smart aleck a little bit, because I generally don't do this. I think it's silly, but to be a bit of a bust chops a little bit, I added a trigger warning to this tweet. Trigger warning did not work. The number of people who were like, "Oh my God." And let's see, Turbo Durant says it's coming down to Rodgers, Super Bowl or bust. Listen, that's a conversation we had, and I agree. I think that for the capital, for what you gave up for Aaron Rodgers in picks, in money, this is a Super Bowl or bust transaction. And people have disagreed with me. They've said that that's a negative take, and the Jets fans and the Jets and their fans should be happy if they make the playoffs. I wholly disagree. As I said many times in the offseason, if the goal is to make the playoffs, go get Ryan Tannehill. He might get you to the playoffs. He's been there. Um, and you wouldn't have had to give up all the capital and all the money. Like, you gave up all that stuff. That's Super Bowl or bust, as far as I'm concerned. And that's where the Jets are with Aaron Rodgers. But when I tweeted out, hey, Jets fans, here's a trigger warning. This is a worst case scenario tweet. What happens if Aaron plays, gets hurt, they lose the one, there's no first round pick next year? People were melting down. The profanity all over the thread. F you, go outside, touch grass, you're a loser, stop being so negative. Like, listen, sitting down and listen, if you're as crazy as as crazy of a fan as a lot of us out there, who admittedly, whole 100% admit, spend way too much time thinking about the hypothetical scenarios for this team moving forward. Spend way too much time thinking about what's going to happen with this team this year. Good, bad, ugly, best case, worst case. Um, People couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle the scenario of Rodgers only playing a year and then the Jets not having a one to replace him. And it was like, you're not a fan, which is always idiots. Like, you're not me, so you're not a fan. I'm the best fan. Yeah, you're not a fan. Go outside. Stop being negative. Why? My favorite. Why are you putting this out into the universe? Guys, that's not real. That's not real. Things don't happen because I tweet them or because anyone tweets them. It's not real. Jinxes aren't real. Curses aren't real. Santa, there's a long list of things, okay, that we could go over. But people freaking out over me pitching hey guys, here's a worst case. What do the Jets do from there? And I wanted to know, what do fans think? What should the Jets do from there? Because it may be an unlikely scenario, but it's certainly not an impossible one. And what would you want the Jets to do from there? Do you think stick with Zach Wilson for another year and see if he's got it? Do you draft a quarterback with the earliest pick you have, which is probably going to be, middle second round if you miss the playoffs? Even if you make the playoffs and get knocked out, it can be late first round. You could be picking 54, 55, 56. Do you take a quarterback there and hope you can develop that guy to be your franchise quarterback? Because, look, teams find quarterbacks in that range. Do you want to trade for a veteran? Do you want to add a veteran through free agency? Whatever it may be. There are many different options, many different ways to approach any good scenario, bad scenario, dream scenario, nightmare scenario, whatever it may be. But yeah, Jets Twitter, don't be so sensitive. Don't be so triggered. It's okay. Listen, we got time till the season starts. We're talking about a million different things. It's that lull in the offseason where maybe you put a few more things online to talk about because there's not anything else going on. And if I'm sitting there thinking, man, what are the Jets? And it's not like Aaron Rodgers has never been injured. He was hurt last year. Not getting any younger. That has to be a concern for any quarterback entering the age he's entering. We can be. I'm as optimistic. I have people tell me, why are you being so negative about this team? I've literally said this team, if the corners stay healthy and Quinnen Williams plays the way he did last year, this team can go to the Super Bowl. 12-5 with a shot to win a Super Bowl. I don't know how much more optimistic I can be. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and, what Denny Green say, I'm not going to sit here and crown them. There's some other good teams out there. You got to beat the Chiefs. You got to beat the Bengals. You got to beat these top teams. And so, listen, at least you're being real, not like other Jets. Look, and I appreciate that. That was the point I made. There are a million Jets Twitter accounts out there you can follow that are sunshine and rainbows. We're winning it all. This guy's going to be a Pro Bowler. That guy's going to be a Pro Bowler. Every draft pick is going to develop into a superstar, and everything is great. And, any negative thought is like, oh, you're not a real fan. Right, because draft picks never bust, and everything always goes the way you want it to. I don't understand the sensitivity and the inability to discuss possible negative scenarios, but I'll throw stuff out there from time to time. If people want to not follow me on Twitter or tell me to F off on Twitter or not listen to the show because of that's fine. That's fine. Do what you want, but don't expect me to not discuss any potential negative scenarios. I talk enough about the positive. I hype up the draft picks because I like so many of these guys, like a lot of the undrafted guys. I've been, pumping up Jason Brownlee, pre-draft, I was saying Brownlee is a guy I hope the Jets would get. I've been talking a lot about Trey Dean. Been talking about Derek Langford, the DB out of Washington State. I like a lot of these guys. The picks themselves, like a lot of the picks. So listen, I've been raving about the picks. I predicted 12 wins. I said they're a Super Bowl contender. But because I said, what do they do if things go south with Rodgers? And everybody melts down. And oh my God, you can't. I can't believe you would. Why are you putting this in the universe? Who the first person who said that should be put in prison. The first person who suggested that the things you say on the internet will somehow come to be because you said them. That's a mental illness, and there's a lot of people out there who believe that this has an impact on the real world. If that were the case, I would do nothing but tweet about money all day, and just wait for I would tweet about me being a billionaire and just wait for the money to come rolling in because I put it out there in the universe. Grow up a little bit, thick skin. And I put a trigger warning. I never put trigger warnings on tweets. I told you. I said, if you're going to read this, Jets fans, this is a doomsday worst case scenario tweet. Don't read it if you don't want to hear it. What do? They read it and then they get triggered and they want to yell at me, which is fine. I can take it. It's just, I'd rather have a civil, sane conversation. But to each his own. That's not everybody's thing. That's it for my thing tonight. Again, just wanted to talk about the Mangini comments on Dalvin Cook, on DeAndre Hopkins. These are guys who they're out there. I don't see the Jets making a run at Hopkins, unfortunately. Cook, I'm torn. I'm really torn. I'm like, is he using the Jets to get Miami to drive up that asking price? Because that's the report right now, is that, the Dolphins have an offer out there. He's waiting for them to bump it up a little bit. What better way to do it than tell him, well, then I'm going to sign with your division rival. So this could, and we've seen it before with players, every sport. Greg Maddux did it to the Yankees with the Braves. Bum. So it happens, and he might be doing that. So if this is in fact what Dalvin Cook is doing, then I expect him to sign with Miami. And listen, when it's young players, I say it all the time. Would you rather be? And listen, I'm from New York, love New York. If I won the lottery, I'd have a vacation home in New York tomorrow. But if I was a young guy and you're choosing between Miami, tax-free Miami, and one of the most heavily taxed places in the world in the Northeast and the U.S., I'm sorry, folks. Like I'm going to Miami. I'm going to the sunshine and tax-free. You want to go in the cold and pay plenty of extra for the pleasure, so be it. And listen, the Dolphins, it's not like they're a bad team. That would be, that could be another conversation. But Miami has put together a really good team. Charles Harrison, let's go Jets. Absolutely, Charles. By the way, check out the front page at JetNation.com. Yes, I know that you can go to the Jets website where you can get a full copy of the current 90-man roster. We try to do this every year. Put it out this morning. It's the Jets 90-man roster, top to bottom, 1 through 90, every single guy with at least one sentence, one note on each player. Because listen, there are some guys on this roster. I'm not going to lie to you. There's guys who've been in the league 3-4 years, have 2 games. And we haven't heard their names all offseason. I remember reading the name when they were signed. I remember looking up where they played. That was about it. So I did a little more digging, looked up some stats, where they started, where they played, which guys have a little position over flexibility, which guys have missed a lot of time due to injury. So it's 90 guys, 1 through 90. Everybody's got a note. Some guys have, 3-4 sentences if it's some of the more interesting guys. A guy tweeted about earlier, throw his name out there now, encourage people to go watch some of his games at UNC, University of North Carolina. Chaz Surratt. I may have mentioned him once or twice, but he doesn't get talked about a whole lot. Why Chaz Surratt? I think he's the biggest dark horse who's got the best shot to make this roster. Why do I say that? We know how thin the Jets are at linebacker. Surratt is a guy who's had a couple of years now to learn the position better. Robert says the Jets are the best in the division. They could very well be. They could. Listen, Robert, if this defense plays the way they did last year and the offensive line picks it up a little bit, I don't see why they can't win the division. I really don't. Cole Beasley tweeted the day the Jets got Aaron Rodgers. I've mentioned this a few times. The day the Jets got Aaron Rodgers, they were, somebody tweeted out the divisional rankings before and after the trade and left it the same as the Jets over the Bills. And Cole Beasley, former Bill, was like, hey, man, I don't know if you happen to catch the 2 games they played last year, but the Jets weren't that far behind. Obviously, the Jets split that 2-game series with Buffalo, and that was with some of the worst quarterback play in the NFL. You upgrade to Aaron Rodgers, folks, and the Jets could be the class of the division. Again, not everybody. The Jets have to avoid catastrophic injury situations. You can't lose Aaron Rodgers for 9 weeks. You can't be down to your 7th, 8th, 9th tackle. You can't have that. But if you want to know who those 7th, 8th, and 9th tackles are, as I said, go to the JetNation.com front page, check out the 90-man roster. Finished it up this morning. It took me about 1,000,000 hours, over 4,000 words. Every single player, position, number, and notes on every single guy. Chaz Surratt, the guy I was talking about before, outside linebacker who played at University of North Carolina, made the switch from quarterback to linebacker in his final 2 years in college, racked up 206 tackles, looked like a natural at the position, got drafted by the Cowboys, was let go, but has now had a couple of years in the NFL on practice squads to get some work in. Jets activated him last year, and believe it was him, pulled his hamstring on kickoff, so didn't get any reps. But Chaz Surratt, Jets are thin there unless they bring back Quan Alexander, which is still a possibility. We've discussed that. Maybe he's a guy they bring back after week 1, as we often see teams do. Bring him back on a team-friendly deal, avoid the guaranteed situation. So that would hurt a guy like Surratt. But again, everyone's on there. Every single guy in the 90. Maybe there'll be some changes. Well, there will be some changes between now and training camp, which is only a couple weeks away, folks. Training camp right around the corner. I'll be doing my thing here, just popping on when I can, when news breaks, when there's something I got to get off my chest about this team. In the meantime, Dylan Turman and Chris Schubert, they are live Thursday nights at 6:30. I'm hoping to hop on with them one of these weeks before I go on vacation for a couple. But that'll do it for this one. Thanks for tuning in, and get ready, fans.